I was very aware of what my role was. So when I got into the trade, I knew there wasn't very many women and I knew what I was going to be up against. So I
Okay.
almost had prepared myself like, I am going to face this. This is going to happen. That's going to happen. And so I almost had this mentality coming in that, you know what, I'm going to handle it in a way that isn't going to be controversial. I'm going to handle it in a way where people are going to say, you know what, women do belong here and I will get the respect and I will have a place. And then that's going to make things easier for the generation after me.
That is Miss Courtney Chard, my newly found friend. I'm not sure if she's going to be okay with me claiming that she's my friend, but people like her, those are the type of friends we want to have. You heard from that opening, she took her role in the trades extremely seriously from the get-go. And I think that's what we all need to do is as trade professionals, we are representative of one another. You're going to get to hear more from Ms. Courtney about the realities of being a woman in the trades and becoming a metal artist, because she's like a metal artist. She is out there rocking it, putting some sweet stuff out there. And not only like just the metal stuff, she's also gotten into photography and videography around showcasing her pieces. You got to find them on TikTok and all the socials. We'll have something in the show notes for y'all. She also talks about empowering kids to practice creativity through a skilled trade. Like, yeah, she brings a whole lot of warmth and a whole lot of depth to being a woman in the trades, to being a professional craftsman, to being an artist. And before we go, I got to show some love to my peeps out there. And first, before we get into the love part, I got to make a confession. So if y'all been reading the show notes, you can probably see there's a big difference between some sets of show notes and then some of the other ones. A good example is go to the collabo sessions on the goal that I did with Thomas LeMay. Those are the show notes I wrote all by myself. And then if you look at the show notes from this interview or the previous interview with John Toops and a whole bunch of other ones, you'll see a level of professionalism in those notes that are not me. Those show notes are written by Miss Kayla. And because of the patrons that have signed up and have been supporting Learnings and Missteps, I'm able to put some of those monies to acquiring external services to help me represent the trades better than I can with my own writing skills. So Kayla, shout out to you, sister. You've been knocking it out and we appreciate you very much. And folks, if you're looking for copywriting services, creative writing, anything to do with writing, Miss Kayla can hook you up. Her email address is going to be down in the show notes. And time for the L&M love. This one goes out to Mr. Buddy, the suave voice actor. Buddy left us an awesome message in support of the emotional bungee jumpers. And here's what Buddy says. He says, you want to learn a new communication skills? You want to have fun doing it? Get on board ASAP. We're keeping it real and improving ourselves along the way. Join us in the emotional bungee jumpers group. And yes, folks, that is a thing that we've started. There's a whole group of industry professionals that are working to deepen their listening skills, their feedback skills, their vulnerability skills, like all the ultra powerful leadership skills where there's rarely a practice venue to do those things. That is what we're doing on the emotional bungee jumpers. There's a link. Hit it up if you're interested. We'd love to have you be a part of the group and contribute your experience and have some takeaways so that you can go back out there and join the effort and leaving this world better than we found it. So here we go. On to Miss Courtney Chard. Boom! What is going on, L&M family? Here we are. Again, we have a ultra super celebrity, welder, artist, craft worker, tradesperson, international superstar. How are you doing, Miss Courtney?
I'm good. Thank you for making up nice lies.
I can't help myself. I just get super excited about having conversations with people that are contributing so much in terms of enhancing the image of careers in the trades. And I've seen a bunch of your content. I think I came across you on TikTok. And the videos, the artistry of the video that also captures what you're doing with metal art it's like there's so many layers of amazingness in it. It is beyond anything that I could even cook up in my own head. And then you just do it so consistently, like for real. It is super mesmerizing is probably the closest accurate word I can come up with.
I appreciate it. A lot of work goes into it. We have hours and hours of footage just for literally a 60-second short or reel.
Would you mind sharing like the progression? I mean, we're going to get to know you a whole lot, but specifically the progression of your welding. You learned a trade, you started creating art, and then this new thing of, maybe it's not new for you, but I think it's new for a lot of people, like how to leverage social media for marketing and making that an art of itself. Is that like a plan that you had, or did you just happen upon it?
I think I happened upon it. So I've always been creative. I could draw. And then I stepped away from it because you get told you can't make a living from art, pick something else. So I got it. I started out as a steam fitter and then did my welding apprenticeship. We do them side by side in Canada. You can do that.
Yeah.
So I did those two trades. And then as I got not bored, you get to a certain level in your trade, you've mastered it to some levels, to some degree. So I mastered it, and then I wanted to explore something more. So then I had the confidence and the skill now to try making art from metal. And once I started creating these pieces, I wanted to have a way of showcasing it or extending the art. And it was through social media. I met a photographer, and I had this client, and he wanted an owl. And he told me over the phone, I will pay for quality and I want it to be your best work. And he gave me free reign.
Okay.
So that kind of set the bar. So I'm like, I'm going to make this the best owl I can possibly make. And now I got to deliver this owl to this gentleman
Yes.
in a spectacular way.
Yes.
So I said, we got to do a reveal. We have to reveal this and make this big time because he's paying all of this money and we got to make it worth it. And he was asking, can I see the progress? I said, no, you're not going to see any progress.
Yes.
When I reveal it to the world is when you're going to see it. So then we get talking to the photographer that I was working with. And I said, okay, we got to take photos. And I try to get photos of my work because once the work's gone, you don't get it back. So you have to have a catalog and
Sure.
you could show what you've done in the past. So we just started brainstorming, and he has his craft. He's artistic, photography is an art, and then merging the two together and just this whole creative process where we're bouncing ideas off each other and everything's just flowing, and we're thinking about, okay, let's light it on fire, and okay, how are we going to do that? And it was just such this wonderful creative process. And I usually don't know what song I'm going to pick until I have the video edited, and then just the song just comes up, and it's just amazing process. So I like working with him because it's an extension of my art and it almost creates another art form. Yes. So yeah, we definitely just happened upon it. I don't know any other metal artists that really do reveals like that. So
I agree.
So it's fun, but it's a lot of work, a lot of behind the scenes, like troubleshooting. So even with the koi fish, we sunk it into the pool, but we had to, the logistics on that were like, if I had to keep the bottom of the fish open so the water would fill and it would sink quickly. Because if I closed the fish entirely, it'd be like a pontoon. It would just float on the surface. So just little things like that. And then I had to, after we did the reveal, I could close the bottoms of the fish. But yeah, just things like that. Just the whole thought process. Like you have the idea, but then how do you make the idea come to reality?
So you're capturing like the koi. I got to see the koi video recently, and it's like the story of the koi coming to life. It's the way I interpreted it, right? Like you're banging the metal, you're doing the thing, you're making it happen, and it's like gaining life. And then there's an awesome, and I'm not going to give it away because y'all need to go find her on TikTok. So first, how do people find you on TikTok? Or is it only on TikTok?
Nope, I'm on Instagram and Facebook as well. So my Instagram is Chard Courtney. My Facebook's just my name, Courtney Chard. And my TikTok's Creative Welding. And then Courtney Chard is my username.
Good. So folks, y'all know where to go now. You get permission to pause this episode and go watch those videos because it really is art. So you see the koi coming to life, you're building it, you're the kind of behind the scenes, the life story of the koi, the lighting, the imagery, the music. It's phenomenal. I'm like, son of a gun, this is really what I was thinking. That took a lot of discipline and patience that I know I don't have. Not to mention the skill and the talent to do the damn thing. I think it's beautiful. And I'm eager to see how that influences and inspires other craft workers. How often do you get folks that reach out to you and say, hey, I don't know what you're doing, but girl, I need to do that?
I get that. I get asked a lot if I would give lessons.
Oh, okay.
So that's interesting. So I think a lot of people want to explore welding as a hobby. And there's a lot of like woodworkers who make tables, but they'd like the ability to make their own table legs and that kind of thing. So I get asked that a lot. I know it's influencing my daughter. You never think that what you're doing matters until something happens. So my daughter just recently had to do a science project, and she told everybody in the class, I'm going to make a 3D model out of metal. I'm going to weld it. So she asked me, and again, like she's exposed to everything.
Sure.
And she's a child ambassador for Kick-Ass Careers. Yes. And we help people get into the trade and trade awareness through education and mentorship. So she's taken on that role, but I don't push her. So when she approached me with that, I was like, wow, okay, this is awesome. And I actually videoed it because I had this feeling somebody was going to say, oh, your mom did that. So I filmed the process so nobody could say that she didn't do it. Put it up. I actually got YouTube just so for the classroom. Put it up on YouTube Shorts and put it on my socials. She actually went viral on Facebook. She's got 100,000 views. She's 9 years old. 9 years old. Then I get an email from the local newspaper. They're like, can we interview your daughter? She's in the newspaper. So I was just so happy for my daughter.
That's amazing.
Especially because we've had our struggles with schoolwork. And so the fact that she has seen me create in the shop, one of the choices was to do a model. So then she in her head said, you know what? I see mom make sculptures all the time. I can make that model out of metal and apply that to my school project. Yes. And then it goes into a whole other set of learning. So now she's not only learning about the nervous system, which was the assignment, she is now going into a whole other set of skills now she's in the shop. So now she's using the plasma cutter. Now she's using her imagination because she's going through my scrap piles, finding out what looks like a spine, what looks like a brain. How are we going to make the neuron? Like we're going through all that. Oh, this will work. That'll work. We're using the torch and she's using the MIG welder. And then the next level of that is she did her schoolwork, which she's not too happy about doing, but now she sees, you know what, I did the work. And then now I'm getting recognized. So many positives coming out of this experience. So if that's because she sees me work in my shop on the weekend, then awesome.
Super awesome. Wow. Okay. So you started off, you got into the trade through the steam fitter apprenticeship, and it's a combo steam fitter welding apprenticeship. First piece was an owl.
No. So the first thing was, okay, this is so funny. So my mom, every year the fall fair happens. I don't know if you have fall fairs where you are, but we do. And she's like, I want to enter my baking. And she would talk about this for years. And one year I got sick of hearing it. And I'm like, all right, you're going to enter something in the fair and I'm going to enter something. And she's like, what are you going to do? You can't cook. I'm like, give me the book. There has to be something in here like crafts, right?
Yeah.
So I went into the craft section and there was like a garden ornament. So I made this garden ornament. It was a pumpkin out of horseshoes.
Oh,
And
cool.
I won. And then she won for the baking. So then I said, hey, maybe there's something here to this. So then I started making things on my own. And she is a hairdresser. So I would just leave them out on the porch and her clients would start being interested in buying them. Wow. And then the guys at work were like, you should start a social media. You could sell it. I didn't have the confidence though. And I was afraid to be rejected because I liked doing it so much. I was like, but what if no one likes it? Yeah. So that was a big hurdle.
How did you get through that?
I had to force myself. I had to say, this is silly, Courtney. If you want something, you got to go for it. So it was a bit of mind over matter. So making your logical mind guide your like primal fears, you know, that set in.
Yes.
Like, where's this coming from?
And it's like we create this whole situation. It's not for real, except in our head. But it's so all-consuming that it feels like reality. And it's all made up.
Exactly. And then there was the fear of exposure through social media, because you hear a lot of negatives about social media.
Sure.
But I knew to be successful or go to the next level, I needed social media. So that was a battle too. Okay, you need to be visible, which puts yourself in a vulnerable spot, right?
Yes.
If you want to get to that level in your career or level with your art, you need to do that. So all those things weren't exactly comfortable for me, but I have to be responsible and be smart about things and respectful. And it's been an amazing experience.
So I also heard you motivated your daughter by living your truth. You motivated your mom to submit the damn cake.
Yeah, hurry up, Mom.
Right. How many other people are you aware of that are motivated and inspired into action because you took the leap, right? You did the emotional bungee jump in and said, I'm scared, I'm terrified, this might hurt, my feelings may hurt, but I'm going to be vulnerable and put myself out there. How many, just a super rough guess?
I don't know if I've even thought of that.
Good.
I've had experiences where you never quite know the influence you have on people till years later.
Yes.
So I was journeyman and I had this apprentice, 18 years old. You're just at this point trying to keep this kid alive. You're not sure if he's listening to you. He's looking at you like this, and you like take his head and you straighten it out. And you're like, are you listening? And you forget about him. You're just doing your job because somebody did that with you. And years later, I'm talking 10 years later, I get a text message from this apprentice. Not apprentice anymore, he's journeyman, foreman. He's like, Courtney, I just wanted to say thank you. I think part of the reason why I am where I am right now is because of you. And I'm like, are you kidding me? I didn't even think you're listening.
Yes.
So I don't consciously think of it, but I have had moments like that in my life, with the moment with my daughter when she is like, hey, I'm going to make this, or with that journeyman foreman. And it took a long, like 10 years, like boom, blew my mind.
And it's like super fulfilling, right? Oh my goodness, I can't believe you just said that to me.
It's so unexpected, like from who it was too.
Because you didn't even know if he was awake. I was one of those apprentices. I'm sure there's a few Papa Juan and Johnny and Pedro are like, man, that fool, I can't believe he's still alive.
But he's doing wonderful.
That's great. So there's a few things that are truths that I've been able to see or experience coming up. I went through the plumbing apprenticeship, and you described how your daughter, you had to go through the scrap pile and say, okay, how can I have a vision? I have this thing. How do I make that work? Let me find some stuff. Oh, and by the way, if it's not exactly the shape that I want it to be, I can make it the shape I want it to be. And I think, I don't know what that's called, but an observation I have is those of us that work with our hands in the trades or in art, we have this ability to be able to say, I got to get there. This is what I have. This is how I'm going to get there. Does that make any sense?
Makes total sense.
And so we just figure out how to get there.
I don't think we have a choice.
I
like
agree.
We're it. Like we make things happen. There's no choice. Like if we don't figure it out, like how's it going to get done?
Who's going to do it?
We're the doers. We're the builders.
Yes. There's a mindset, right? Or a steel grit, a force of thinking that lends itself to us accepting that call. Because if we don't do it, who's going to do it? And that's like a serious responsibility. Nobody tells you that's what it is until you get in there and you start figuring that out. So what was it that attracted you or intrigued you to come into the trades, to decide to join an apprenticeship as a steam fitter welder?
So I'm second generation. My father was in the same union as a pipeline welder. And I was always growing up a bit of a tomboy. I played hockey. Back then, not a lot of women. I'm 44, so not a lot of women played hockey. And I used to like my hair short and wear baggier clothes. That wasn't really accepted. Things have changed a lot. So I always liked those sort of things. After high school, your guidance counselor, you got to go to college or university. So you just pick a course. So I picked law and security, hated it right away, finished it because I didn't want to be a dropout because there was stigma to that. The trades weren't an option. So finally I just got enough courage and said to my dad, I'd like to weld. I'd like to be in the union. And he was actually really supportive. He's like, sure, get in the shop. We'll get you in the union, which I was shocked about.
He said, yes, come on.
Yeah, because it was never really put out there. So that's how I got into it. And so it wasn't really a straight path, but I was exposed to it. Same as Hayden. My dad had a shop on the property and he was very proud of what he did. You could see it. He loved his job. That influences you too.
Yeah.
And I knew like the lifestyle we had, and I knew I wanted that same lifestyle. So I wasn't scared. Like I knew the trade could provide that. But I think overall, he was really proud that he was a welder.
So I heard you say that on the weekends you work on your art.
Yeah.
So you still full-time job and creator artist? What's happening there?
So out of our union hall, UA Local 46 Toronto, we work 36 hours.
Okay.
So it's 4 days a week. So I get Friday, Saturday, Sunday off. And the way I attack my projects is most of my work's commission based. People put in a request and I don't usually have time frames. They know I work. They know it's a hobby. Well, not a hobby. It isn't a hobby anymore. It's a business now. Caught myself. But the way I do work is if I go to the shop, I put some hours in. If I find myself getting frustrated in any way or not enjoying it, I leave.
Yeah.
And I walk away. Yeah. I don't let it get to that point where it's not fun or joyful.
This is amazing. You mentioned joyful. Can you take a stab at describing what that joy feels like when you're doing whatever you're doing?
So the way I can describe it, it's just peace. So when I'm creating and when no one's around and when I'm not thinking, there's no thought and you're just doing and you're just at peace. I've heard from people who meditate, that's what it is. There's no thought. And so it's a form of meditation. And then it's almost where you're almost channeling, just flowing. And it's awesome.
And then thoughts start catching.
There's no thought. No thought.
Okay.
So the thinking usually happens beforehand. So when you had the question, so when does the creative process start? It starts in the shop. No, it doesn't. It starts maybe weeks or months ahead of time with a thought, an idea. Maybe when I'm welding or maybe when I'm scrolling through social, but then there's that little seed and then you keep going, okay, so how would I do this? What materials would I need? You're sitting on the couch, you're thinking, how would I attack that? So there's that, a lot of thought. Then I'll maybe go on social media or Google Pictures, and I'll screenshot pictures of what I want to make.
Yeah.
So when I'm in the shop, I'll pull up my phone and just look and then start building. So I've almost worked out a plan of attack, like while I'm at work under the welding shield, thinking, while I'm on the couch thinking. And then when it's time to actually execute in the shop, I have a plan. And then I just go from there.
And then you connect with the source and let things go.
Yeah.
Until it gets heavy, you say, okay.
Yeah, but I get tired. I'm like, I'm tired, but I have a day job. I don't need to push and make myself miserable. Or my daughter wants to go do something. Okay, let's do it. I got to spend time with you. I want to spend time with you. I don't need to be here. And I don't put the pressure on myself like that.
That's like critically important, no doubt. So being under the welding hood, I'll say that for me, the first time I got under a hood, I knew that I could not be a welder. Yeah. Not just because it was everything was sticking and it looked like birds came and pooped all over the pipe, but the solitude of being under the hood and not interacting with people was a problem for me. Have you heard of that before?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So I used to teach at our union hall and at local colleges, and you'd get a class of, let's say, 15 kids, and you could right away tell who didn't like it, who didn't want to be there, would probably succeed, but through hard work, and then who was just natural. And yeah, it's not for everyone at all. It isn't. I like the solitude.
Yeah.
And it never gets boring. A lot of people say it gets boring, but it doesn't to me. It never gets boring.
It's the important part. I think today I would be able to handle it. There was also other stuff I had going on that I was terrified about being in my thoughts, right? So I was 18 years old and I'm like, right? I was always distracting myself with people and things. Now I love my solitude. So there's a good chance it may be under the hood. Maybe I need to go buy me a welder and just start tinkering around here at the house.
You should. It's good. You need to be creative. I think we're creative. I think people are creative. You need that creative outlet.
Agreed. 100%. Oh my goodness. Okay. So what else should the L&M family know about you, Ms. Courtney? You've done some great stuff. Good. Apprenticeship, full-time. You've done some teaching. You're a mother. You motivated your mother, second generation in the trades. What do you see, like, in your heart of hearts? What do you see the future being like for you and your trade and your craft?
I do see myself doing larger sculptures.
Okay.
I would maybe be able to retire early and do that full time. But then I'm also involved with my union a lot too. And I sit on the executive board. And that was a voted position. I was nominated and voted by my peers to sit there. Maybe there's a place for me on that side of things, maybe getting more into the side of the union hall. Could go lots of different ways, but that's exciting.
Having that many paths open to like just see what comes of them, see what it turns into.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. That's good. And you mentioned, talked about hobby, and he said, no, it's not a hobby. It's a business. What's the difference?
I think the business generates decent money, and I could see there's room for growth that way. It could keep growing.
Absolutely. And with the marketing that you're doing, because that's what I see social media as, right? It's social marketing. It's a way, it can be, right? It could be me goofing off, or I can be intentional about the message that I'm putting out there and introducing people or doing reveals, like you said, and promoting the goods and services that I can provide. So you've got that. Like, again, folks, y'all need to go and see that koi reveal because it's an experience. I'll say that. And then one person asked me when I started the podcast, because I've had the podcast for like 2 years now, over 2 years. And they're like, man, you must be making a lot of money. I'm like, no, it's still a hobby. And like, what do you mean it's a hobby? Because I'm just spending money on it. It's not bringing in any revenue. But at some point, it turns into a source of revenue. And in my case, because I'm a consultant, it's almost a piece of my marketing.
I was just going to say that. Yes, it ties into what you are doing professionally.
Yes, that wasn't the plan, but what you were talking about, it's just how it worked out. And as I continue to explore the creativity that I've discovered, whatever that is, and have the conversations and share more of my thoughts, like more things starting, and I'm happy. So what stuck out to me is when you said the joy piece, because for me, it's that when I'm doing things that rob me of joy, I don't have to do them. I will stop doing them. I can pump the brakes, leave it alone, walk away from it, or just never do it again. But I get to choose what I'm going to be experiencing, and I choose joy.
Yes. And you seem like the person who knows you don't want to just settle. Like, you don't want to just get comfortable. You want to keep experiencing things and keep striving for more. Striving for challenges and different forms of excellence.
Yes, ma'am. This is as clear as I've gotten on it. I am in search of new avenues to serve others, to share my gifts and talents, to refine the gifts and talents that I've been blessed with, whatever they are. Some of them are undiscovered still. And how can I share that to enhance the quality of life of someone else? That's what I'm looking for. 2 years ago, I never would have thought I'd be doing a podcast. That was the last thing on my mind.
Then COVID happened.
Exactly. And then COVID happened. And so it's really that, right? Is how do I think I understand, or I have a better understanding of how I best serve, and how can I design my life so that I could do that as many hours as possible?
Yes.
That's that simple. And then go do that. But on that path, there's pain, right? There's sacrifice, there's challenge, there's missed opportunities. And so on your path, I'm pretty sure you've got some good ones. And all you have to do is pick one. Can you share a significant learning that you've had as a result of a painful misstep?
Painful. I thought about that today. I don't know if men and women are different on this. I think maybe when I hear you say misstep, I hear like one thing that went wrong and it shocked me into something. I was embarrassed or something like that. I didn't have anything like that occur. I think what my thing was.
It is time for the commercial break. You already know the deal. And if you're new, welcome, and we're glad to have you. This significant learning that our guests have experienced through a painful misstep is available on the YouTube only. So check out the Backstage Pass YouTube playlist. You're not only going to get this super deep, revealing nugget of wisdom, you're also going to get a lot of life lessons that our previous guests have shared over the last year, 2 years. Lots of great stuff there. So digest it, consume it, and share it. And I want to invite you to hook up with the super amazing crew that go by the name of the Emotional Bungee Jumpers. Yes, it is as fun and as scary as it sounds, but it's also intended to help us build our leadership skills, build our communication skills. And you're going to be hanging out with a group of industry professionals who are actively upskilling, leveling up their game so that they can serve in deeper and more meaningful ways, particularly focused on listening, asking questions, and connecting in deep ways. So hit the doodly doo, like Mondo 2.0 says. Down in the show notes, there's going to be a link for the Backstage Pass, and there's going to be a link for the Emotional Bungee Jumpers. Hit it up, and here we go, back to the show. But it's like throwing in the towel one thread at a time. And when I say throwing in the towel, I'm talking about like taking the mask off.
Yeah.
And you said authentic and genuine. Like the road or the path for me to get authentic or more in touch with my authentic self has been a super, super long road. And it sounds like that's what you're saying. Like it didn't happen overnight. It wasn't like a big bang. Like here I am, I've arrived. Let me go do a koi. It happened over time, working through insecurities, self-doubt, self-sabotage. Am I in the right ballpark?
Exactly. Or just even if when you have such a strong reaction at work or just anywhere, and you're just gonna like take that step back and be like, okay, why is my ego so hurt right now? Like, why am I having this crazy strong reaction? I shouldn't be.
But there's a progression, right? Maybe there isn't. For me, there was. So that's the question is when it first started happening, you're a young woman in the trades, and I'm pretty sure the guys were making it super obvious that you were a rarity. Is that true or false?
Absolutely.
Okay. And when they were being off by the off chance that they were being rude, disrespectful, and jerks, and your reaction was to respond in a very defensive way. Did that ever happen?
Yep, it did. I did, however, I was very aware of what my role was. So when I got into the trade, I knew there wasn't very many women, and I knew what I was going to be up against. So I almost had prepared myself, like, I am going to face this. This is going to happen. That's going to happen. And so I almost had this mentality coming in that, you know what, I'm going to handle it in a way that, isn't going to be controversial. I'm going to handle it in a way where people are going to say, you know what, women do belong here, and I will get the respect and I will have a place. And then that's going to make things easier for the generation after me. So I had that mentality going in.
That girl, okay. Where did that come from?
I was 23. I was young. I don't know where that came from.
The presence of mind to say, this is not just about me. This is about generations to come. That's what I heard you say.
Do you know what's really interesting, Jesse? Do you know what just recently happened? And this is a little bit story about where we are today. So I just got my cousin in our local. She's a steam fitter welder apprentice. So she's 23. She's working at the local hardware store, and we're at a family barbecue, and I was eavesdropping. She's like, I got to get my life straightened out. Like, I got to figure something out. So then we were having an intake with our union hall for apprentices. So I just got her over the intake and I said, hey, this may be something you're looking at and doing. Long story short, she gets accepted into our hall. Now it's time to find a replacement. So I believe this is the whole thing, equity versus equality. Women are still at a point in construction where we need a little bit more help.
Sure.
In certain areas. Definitely wanted to make sure she got off on the right foot, where she was going to get in with a decent company, because not all companies are created equal. We know that.
Well, yes.
And a decent sector. So we have low rise, high rise, ICI, industrial, commercial, institutional. We have pipeline. We have different sectors in our hall. So I reached out to a foreman that I had worked with, and we did our trade together. And I said, look, can you take my cousin, please? I'd really like her to have a good start, because you're kind of maybe starting not equal, right? He goes, absolutely, I'll take her. So everything was ready, getting ready. This was just not even 6 months ago. And this was devastating. He calls me. He's, Courtney, there's a problem. I don't think I can get your cousin in. What are you talking about? He goes, it was all signed up. Now she has a name that could be either male or female. So I guess there's a process, and he had to go through the hiring or manpower guy. And he was talking, and as soon as he said she, all of a sudden there was not enough room in this company for this girl. And I was like, my heart broke into 1,000 pieces. And I was almost in tears. I've been in the trade 20 years. 20 years thinking I'm fighting and I'm making the difference and I'm changing things and everything's going to be awesome. And I was almost in tears. And I said to my friend, I said, this cannot be real. Please tell me this is not happening. Please tell me, after 20 years of trying to follow the rules and do right and not be controversial and do my job professionally and set an example and be a mentor, this is not happening. And he's like, I'm upset, Courtney. I'm upset. So I just said, okay, this isn't over. And I had this internal thing and just put it out to the universe. Like, you know what? I'm going to have faith in my male counterparts, my male allies. So sure enough, they went up to this hiring guy. There was another man involved too. And they said, listen, you're going to hire her. We need women in the trades. They used some other language.
Yeah, of course. The convincing language.
You're going to hire this girl. We need women in the trades, and you're going to fucking hire her. So I'm keeping all this a secret from my cousin. She has no idea this is happening.
Need to know that.
No, because I don't want to discourage her. She's so positive. She's done everything she's supposed to do. I'm devastated. I'm in tears about this because it just destroyed me. Yeah. But I just put it out there. I'm like, nope, I'm going to have faith in my male counterparts, my male allies. And you know what, Jesse? They came through. You guys came through.
That's amazing.
And she's doing wonderful. And now they don't want to let her go. And everyone's we want her on site. No, we want her in the shop. We want her. And because she's doing such a good job. She fits in and she's doing well. She's really got a close bond with her journeyman steam fitter, and it's just beautiful.
So shout out to the Malays over there. I'm stealing that from Judalyn Cassidy. She calls them Malays.
That's awesome. I've never heard that before.
So shout out to them because that took some courage on their part.
It totally did.
And you, again, I'm still in awe that you had the foresight and the wherewithal to say, I need to show up different for the next line of ladies behind me, so I could set a standard or set a precedent and demonstrate an example, because not everybody does that. So I applaud you for that. Oh my goodness. Hopefully you'll be listening to this conversation in the future. And right now, just in the 45 minutes that you and I've been talking, I'm counting 7 people that you've impacted in such a way that they took steps, like life-altering steps, life-altering actions. And the one thing they have in common is you.
I didn't think of that.
No. I'm telling you, girl. And so with that, what footprint do you intend to leave on the world?
I guess that's my art, maybe.
Yeah?
Like a permanent mark.
Because it ain't going nowhere.
It's not going anywhere. It's a permanent mark. Courtney was here.
Do you ever leave Courtney signatures when you're out on the job site or on some of the work you're doing on your day job, or you can't say?
That's funny. Sometimes we'll go do shutdowns. So there'd be regular shutdowns at certain places, like Petro-Canada has them. And then this one was Irving Tissue. And so sometimes you're up in a ceiling and not seen anywhere, but previous generations had signs. I've done stuff like that.
Okay, good. So I don't feel bad because I've done the same thing. We'll open up a chase to redo some plumbing or jump in a mechanical room. And I used to find an I-beam or something in that's not gross to where it would look like graffiti. It was graffiti, but I'd do my little signature or do something to I was there. And I've even had people say, dude, I was at University Hospital over here in Houston and I saw this thing and it looked like your handwriting. And I'm like, well, I don't know what you're talking about. But yes, that was me. That was me.
It's like a time capsule.
Exactly. It's like a little time capsule. They may or may not see it. And it's like you said, we craft workers, trade workers, we leave a lasting impression wherever we go. Through our
work.
We're
so proud of it. We're so proud of what we do. Tradespeople are proud. They're like, I worked there. I did that. My dad, there's a pipeline running through here. I did this. Even I took Hayden to go see Harry Potter in the city. I'm like, look, Hayden, that mark on the ground, that was a tunnel. She's like, no, Mom, I saw the video. So we're so proud. But somebody said you don't see teachers or businessmen bragging about what they do.
No. When I started transitioning into foreman, and then into superintendent, and then further and further away from the work, it became hard for me because the biggest challenge besides my vocabulary was I could not turn around at the end of the day or at break and say, I did that. There was nothing for me to point to. Now, then it's what did I do? Oh, I managed a spreadsheet. It has that effect where we can look back and say, this is what I did. is this environment changed. When I got here, it wasn't like this. And when I'm leaving it better than I found it.
Exactly. It's awesome. We're badass.
Yeah, you're a badass, Courtney. You totally are a badass. Can't wait for you to listen to this because I hope it reminds you just in this conversation. I'm going to say it again because I think it's really important. And I recognize you to be, and I've learned in this conversation how responsible you are with your gifts and talents and the influence that you have. I also know how difficult it is to be aware, like self-aware. We're hyper aware of our defects and our faults. And we're like super not aware of how amazing we are and how influential we have been. And I'm just going to say it again, like just in this small conversation with the random dude that reached out to you on TikTok, you've listed off 6 or 7 people that you've had a significant impact on. And my gut tells me that you can multiply that times 1,000 easy that you've impacted so far. And I'm anticipating that there will be 1 million more that you will be having that effect on.
Thank you.
Yes.
Honestly, I just stay in my lane and just do my thing. Even my mom says that you don't want to be bothered. You just do your thing and you help people if they need help, but that's it. I set my sights on what I want for my future and I just go after it. I don't bother anyone and I don't want to be bothered, but I will help you.
And while you are sharing your gifts and talents. I think that's the secret. Is when we share our gifts and talents, connect with the flow, put that out into the world, be present and available to serve, magic happens. I honestly believe that.
It's true. You know what? I take that from my dad. My dad used to mentor and help so many people and teach so many people how to weld and give so many people opportunities. He did that and I saw him doing that. So I do that. I've seen people on site and they don't want to teach anybody anything. And it's, are you afraid someone's going to take your job?
Yes.
Because that's not how I look at it. I look at it like, if I help this person when I'm old, when I'm like 1 year away from retirement, this kid that I helped is going to give me a job in the tool crib, passing out tools and rod.
Yes.
And take care of me because I was nice to him. My dad passed, his funeral was packed because he was nice and he helped people. So I want the same thing. I want people to show up to my funeral and standing room only.
So are there any folks that you want to give a shout out to?
I always want to give a shout out to my Union Hall, UA Local 46 Toronto, and Kick-Ass Careers.
Yeah, Kick-Ass Careers. I love it. All right. Miss Courtney, did you have fun?
Yeah, awesome. I did.
Good. I did.
I think you're the first Hispanic I know.
No way.
Yeah.
To have a conversation with?
Uh-huh.
That's awesome. I guess in my head, Canada's like super diverse.
It is, but I think in the States, you guys have more of that culture, Hispanic, right? Like we have Jamaicans, people from India, some Trinidadians with Chinese, but yeah.
I live in San Antonio where my name is Jesus Hernandez. And anywhere I go, it's like, just let me give you my driver's license number, my social security number, because there's 1 million Jesus Hernandezes in San Antonio. There's so many of us. Awesome. I feel honored to be the first.
There you go.
Oh my goodness. You're either driving down the road or just so enthralled with this whole podcast that you went all the way down to the very, 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 very end of it. And we appreciate you. And we're going to take this as an indication of your dedication. So we got a little special request of you, a call to action, because everybody tells us that like you need to have a call to action. So here's the call to action. Be kind to yourself. Go out there and share a smile with someone. Peace.